Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Creative Visions TV. And I'm your host, Karen Dahlman, and behind me, we've got Bear. Hey Bear, how you doing? Bear wanted to come on and say hi to you guys. If you recall in the past, my other cats used to come on the show, and Bear's been wanting to come on more and more lately. Anyway, behind me today, I want to show you this board. It's called the Ouija Board. Here's the box that it came in, the Ouija Board. They call it the Ouija, the Spectral Translator. It is actually a pendulum type board. It's from the 80s, made by two creators that came out of Colorado. And this pendulum comes with it. And yeah, it's nice. I mean, you can see it's set up like a pendulum. It's easier to use. You want circular boards with the letters and numbers close together will seem to work better if you want to do pendulum with the spelling. But to me, that's too hard. It just takes too long. That I like to use a planchette on this board. This will work like a talking board. So I can't remember if I've shown you this before or not. I've had it for some time. It's just a different type of, could be used as a talking board, but I wanted to show that to you today. I thought we'd do something kind of cool. I haven't done this in a while, but I've been gathering your questions, been answering as many as I can on the YouTube channel. But I had one gentleman write to me. His name is Jack and the Beanstalk. He is one of the subscribers here. Hey, Jack, thank you for this fabulous questions. So I wanted to address his questions, but it would have taken like pages and pages and pages. So I thought, why not share this with you here in a video for everybody? Because the questions he asked pertain to a lot of the private individual questions I get from you guys separately, or also in the comment section below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through his questions, and I'll read them one by one, and so you can see what we're going to be talking about. But also, if you're thinking of your own questions, by all means, leave them below in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to do more videos where I can answer people's questions. And the questions are not the guides give messages questions. These are questions about helping you with your own ability to use a talking board, spirit board, Ouija board. So write questions that pertain to anything you've heard me talk about on this channel in terms of using a board, also about spirit communication in general, or more specific things that are related to the spirituality, metaphysics, or paranormal or supernatural aspects to using this communication device. And in this case, it's the Ouija board, but it could be any board, you guys, any Ouija board, any talking board, any spirit board, any type of communication device that we've covered here before. And then also let me know below if you'd rather me do it this way, or we can do a live Q&A. We've done those in the past, where I set up a time when you can show up in the chat room and ask questions directly to me, again, about using this tool. This is not asking personal questions or getting readings from the guides. This will be specifically related to your own development with this tool and, questions or concerns you have. So again, this is from Jack and the Beanstalk. He's been working on the board quite a few times now, learning to use this tool himself, as many of you guys are doing. And he just had a few more questions to ask for clarification purposes. So he wants to know, first of all, he says, I've been in contact with a spirit guide briefly, and then he has more questions that have developed since these conversations. And he says, is there any way to summon only spirit guides when using the board, as opposed to just any sort of entity? Great question, of course. This is a great question because it's looking at what else can I do with this tool beyond just, oh, I'm supposed to talk to the dead. Many people think that's what this tool is for. I think it's for many things, and I've used it for many things before, such as animal communication, talking to your higher self, reaching out to other people's higher selves if they give permission, talking to the ethereal beings, speaking to other entities in the unseen dimension, and, of course, speaking to our guides and angels. So, yes, there is a way to only bring in, he uses the word summon, that's fine, only way to bring in or summon spirit guides, if that's what you want. Every time or any time you use this board, it's always about your intentions. That's going to be basically what you're going to get back. Now, when you're first new at using this tool, and newness can be, I don't know, it could be, a few months, it could be a few years, it could be 10 years. Sometimes people don't practice enough, or, you've got to be working on yourself, also deciding what your intentions are, get clarity within yourself for what you want to reach. And then that's when you start bringing in only those energies. You watch me in my shows, and for example, when Rodney and I sit down and do the board, and even when I do it alone, the very first energies that come through, and this has been since 1994, are always the guides. That's who comes through first. These are my spirit guides. That's all that comes through first. And then from there, the other individuals might come through, such as people have questions about their animals. I might have a question about my animals. There might be questions about a deceased loved one. Might be wanting to speak to the extraterrestrials, or you want to speak to your higher self. You do this by the clarity within yourself through your intentions. So if you want to just speak with spirit guides, you got to stick with it and draw your line. That's all you're going to speak to during the session. So you start out by stating your intentions. You can do it in an opening prayer or an opening statement. You can even write it down on your piece of paper. This session is dedicated to only communicating and contacting my spirit guides, or my spirit guide, or my angel, or the guardian angel that watches over me, or my loved one. So you fill in the blanks, ... who it is you want to talk with, and then stick to that. So let's say some vagrant energy just starts coming through. You say, hey, thank you another time, but right now I'm only going to reach my spirit guides. When you do that enough and you get real clear in your mind, and you're consistent with your intentions of what and who you want to speak with, that becomes predominantly who will come through, and it gets to a point where that all will come through in the beginning. Now, if you read my book, The Spirits of Ouija, 40 decades, I'm in my 5th decade of communication now, 4 decades of communication, you see how I talk about what I call a bouncer or a gatekeeper, or a master and mistress of ceremony. In the beginning, that was my spirit guide named Wilma Jean, who was a living person but was deceased. And then eventually she moved on, and new beings came in. So there might be a progression for this with you. So you might work with a spirit guide just to get you started on this process and this journey of reaching the unseen dimensions. And you work with that guide. And that guide, you ask that guide to become the one that bounces the sessions, if you will, and only allows those energies to come through. And then from there, all your communications goes through that being. It'd be like a telephone operator. And you say, operator, I'd like to speak to so-and-so. And then operator plugs you into the switchboard. Okay, I'm going way back. This is way before my time, guys. But the switchboard operator technique, and then just put you into this switch over here, and then you can talk to that person. No different than taking your little, smartphone or mobile device and tapping in somebody's number, and that right there, those numbers, key in that person's phone to ring, so you can pick up the phone and talk to them. That's what you do here. Imagine that. This is like your cosmic phone, and you're going to make those intentions and state, I want to speak to my spirit guides. Again, it's going to be over time, but you can develop this. All right, that was question 1. Now, the second question he asked, how often do you think it's safe to use the Ouija board? And he says, I've heard the Ouija board, you get a Ouija board addiction, and I do want to know how and when to limit myself, and also use it enough to improve my connection with the other realm. So, okay, so I write about this in my book, The Spirits of Ouija. Again, I talked about a person I knew in college as an example, somebody who used it in lieu of relying on her own abilities, relying on her own mind to think about answers to what she was going to wear that day, or how she was going to do in her class. She got to the point where she started skipping classes, and college isn't cheap; you're paying for every credit. And I said, I took the board away. She ended up getting her own board, but I just thought this was ridiculous. Why would you rely on something else to run your life? Okay, here's a secret, you guys. But I'm telling you, true spirit guides and helpers on your side will never tell you what to do. They won't lead or live your life. They will not lead or live your life. That's really important to consider. If you're getting something that you're talking to that's telling you, oh, you've got to do this or don't do that, that's not a spirit guide. That's just some vagrant energy, probably lower astral energies. Not much comes from that. So if you want to get to the guides and you want to get to the helpers that are in the unseen dimension for you, and you want to learn to start working with the different energies that are in different levels of frequency, you got to be really clear with your intentions. I just answered the first question. And then you've got to be clear with yourself that you're not going to rely on this tool to live your life. It's just a tool. You're doing all the work, but nobody should be telling you how to live your life. Now, you may get messages that suggest things for you or make you think about other possibilities or maybe other options. That's fine. It's kind of like having a brainstorming time with somebody, and you're just thinking of all the things, the pros and cons of something or something you could be doing. But when you use it too much, it's like you're letting go of part of your life. You're doing it at the expense of maybe not having relationships with people or having relationships with your pets, or expanding or learning things on your own with your own mind and your own capabilities, and maybe reading and studying. When you start relying on this tool for everything, every time something goes on in your life, you don't stop and think about it yourself, then that's a little too much use. It becomes like an obsession, an addiction. And I was that gal in school, in college, definitely developed an obsession with it, an addiction. And that could be easy to do. So for me to say, oh, you can only do it 5 times a week and nothing more, that'd be wrong for me to say that. You've got to decide what that is for you. But when you start using this tool more and more, just think about it. It does require a lot of energy and time. And you might want to just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do it 3 times this week, and I'm really going to give myself fully for an hour each time. If you're new at starting out, I recommend just setting your timer for 20 minutes on your phone or on a timer, and just sit there and really be focused. I mean, it requires a lot in the beginning. When I do sessions now, I could sit there for up to 5.5 hours, and I've been known to for many times doing that. But I don't use the board as much as I used to. I'm probably using the board myself personally once or twice a month now, where I was probably using it before that once or twice a week. That was probably a few years ago. And sometimes it would change. I would use it more when I had more time, and other times it's like I really try the messages I get. I try to absorb them and take them in and think about them, and then allow them to work with me in other ways. So one great thing to do with this tool is when you're getting messages is to stop and think about them. Take the time away from the board so you can really ingest and understand and hear those messages and get clarity from them. And then try out some of your other abilities, such as journaling, automatic writing, hearing the messages download into you, using your dream work. That way you start to become more well-rounded and learn to use all these abilities within yourself and not just rely on one tool. Now, I learned to rely on almost one tool exclusively, although I got to tell you, I've always used dreams and journaling. And thus I also use automatic writing. So I augmented my work with it. Also, I've used tarot and oracle cards in the I Ching. I was really big into the I Ching for many years. Pendulum somewhat. So think of it this way. Think of this as just one more tool to have in your bag of reaching the unseen dimensions, and allow yourself to use it, explore it, but also step away from it so you can also, bring in your other gifts and find ways to develop those too. So you're going to have to figure out what you need to do to limit it, but when you start thinking you're relying on the board for everything, that's when it becomes too much, in my opinion. So, we all kind of know where that point is, and so I ask you to look at that yourself. Where do you think, or do you think you are relying on it too much? It's always a good question to ask yourself. Am I overusing this tool, or should I also develop other aspects of myself? And maybe so much information is coming through, I need just time to sit with it. And then you're going to know. So really, using this tool is really about learning to trust yourself. Okay. Now, here's another one. Here's a good question. How can I summon a specific entity or energy and know for sure it's them? For example, he wants to talk to his cat who died about a year ago, and he really wants to talk to her, but he doesn't. He wants to know, is there any advice to give to be able to reach just that cat? Now, what I said earlier to question 1 about reaching your spirit guides, this is going to apply to everything you want to communicate with on the board. how I do the animal communication, well, it came to me automatically. My angel brought that through to me. I hadn't thought about that in 1996, January 26th to be exact, when the animals first started coming through. I didn't understand that could be a possibility, but it was. And so I'm here to tell you, just don't reinvent the wheel. You can talk to your animals, whether they're deceased or alive. Now, you might want to go back and watch some of the videos I did on animal communication, and some specifically where Panzer, my black cat, who transitioned a year and a half ago, came through on 2 videos. One, he wanted me to present about what happens when animals die or transition, and the other one, he came back as a mystery guest. So you might want to go back and watch those. Just look for those videos under Creative Visions TV videos. Anyway, you can learn to summon a specific energy, and especially your animals. And how do you know it's them? That's a great question, because it's going to push it back on you to learn to trust what you're receiving. I know, it's going to seem really crazy at first. Am I making this up? How can I be talking to my animals? This is bogus. There's no way. Or that's just wishful thinking. Or maybe this is an energy masquerading, as my cat. Okay, those are all good questions to have, but also they're based in fear. They're based in not giving yourself any credit. So you've got to get to a point where you just say to yourself, I'm willing and I'm open to the animals to communicate, specifically my transition cat or dog or whatever animal you want to speak with. And I'm going to be open that quite possibly this animal can come through. Now, what I've learned from the animals is they come through a little differently. Their energy is a whole different vibration than when I speak to humans or even when I speak to spirit guides. In fact, all the different energies I speak with through the board and also through my mind telepathically, they come through differently and I feel them. So you may feel something that's your cat. You may ask for validation. You just allow it to flow. What you don't want to get in the habit of doing is cutting it off or stopping it. Humor yourself, even if you think you're pushing the planchette and making this up. Humor yourself. Allow the messages to come through. But I will say this. Don't bet on it in the beginning. Don't say verbatim, oh, this is exactly who that was that came through. Give yourself time. Maybe you speak to your deceased cat, transition cat, I like to say, the cat in spirit, 5 or 6 times, and just look at the messages over time. And you go, oh, that does sound like my cat. Or you might go, oh, I'm not clear yet. Let's get some more messages. So it's really you stepping aside, allowing the messages to come without judgment, and just be open to the possibility. Again, I would step away from the board, get a quiet space, and allow the animal to also speak to you or come to you. And know that it may not always be words. It might be an image, it might be a feeling, it might be a sensation, you might get a visual. There's many ways they can come. And the key about any kind of spirit communication is really getting out of your way and allowing them to come the way they need to come that works for them the best and they know they can present to you. So stick to it. Be clear in your intentions of who you want to speak with, again, the cat. And then allow that to come forward without judgment. I know it's hard, but you can do it. I swear you can do it. All right, so this is a question I've been asked many times. I think there's a lot of stuff on the internet that makes you think you can't do this, you can't do that, or you can't ask this question. This question he has is, how do we know which questions are good or bad to ask? Well, that's really up to the individual. There is no good or bad in my book in terms of what you want to ask. It's like, are you ready to hear the answer? Are you ready to maybe ask that question and also be in disbelief? Or even, are you going to even accept it when it comes through? So for me, I want to ask questions, and this is what's developed for me over the years. I tend to want to ask questions that are going to help me evolve in my life or help others evolve. I want to ask questions that are about the unknown. What's beyond this physical incarnation, this corporeal existence? What does sentient beings want to say to us? What what can we do to evolve ourselves and have these communications? So these are the questions I like to ask. I don't limit myself in what I ask. What I found is, if I'm open to the possibilities, they will be the ones that will only go so far. I've been told before that you will have no ability to comprehend the answer to this question, so we will give it to you this way, or we will give you only this much, because it won't matter, you won't comprehend it. So there's a lot of things that are way beyond our mental capabilities, our brain power, if you will, because we are still not using fully all of our functions within our makeup, whether it's in our DNA, genetic component, or within our brain, our computer of our body, within our heart, wisdom. We need to really start activating more of these abilities. Then you're going to find that you're going to be able to ask more questions and get more answers. So I don't see there's any question that's wrong to ask. I know there's the rules out there about the board, and those are really tongue-in-cheek, at least in my opinion. And those are just funny, fun things to say, like don't ask when you're going to die, never ask what kind of spirit are you, or such questions like that. Personally, I don't really want to know when I'm going to die, and I believe, I know now that my spirit guides will never tell me that, because they want me to live every single day fully as I am, and not to think that, oh my God, I'm going to die in 2 days or something. So think about what it is you really want to ask, but why you're asking it. Is this first of all, back up. What's the purpose of even using this tool? What is your purpose? Answer that question first. Why do you want to use this tool? And I don't say any purpose is right or wrong. Again, this is just for you personally, what it is about using this tool for you. Why do you want to use this tool? Ask yourself that question. Get clear in that. And then I think what you ask and don't ask is going to probably fall within the parameters of that. And then you may grow outside of those parameters, or why you're using the tool, and you start developing other reasons why you use this tool. And then from that, you might say, oh, I've got new questions to ask. There really is no right or wrong in asking questions. It's really your own limitations or judgments about those questions. So just get clear in your mind and ask away, and know you're only going to get answers that you're able to understand at this time. You may get some that push you into new ways of thinking or experiencing or becoming, and that's okay too. And, taking them always with a grain of salt in the beginning, because you're getting messages. You may not be really good at fine-tuning your energy to connect with the energies you want to connect with. So just, take your time with this. Again, it's over time, as I mentioned about, you start communicating with the deceased animals or your pet that's alive. You have to see the messages over time. And that snapshot over time is going to say to you, hey, this seems legitimate to me. And you're going to start feeling it, the legitimacy of the answers that you get. It won't be overnight. Again, all this stuff takes time. I call it the 3 Ps: practice, patience, perseverance. And over time, you will begin to see, whether you can accept or trust or deny the messages you're receiving and the answers you're receiving. But yeah, ask away, ask away. You are the only limiting factor here to what you can and can't ask. Okay, so here we go. Another question. I had a session with an illiterate entity. Okay, so that's an energy that came through that didn't spell very well. He was very nice, but it was difficult to talk to him at times. Do you have any tips on how to communicate with an entity when there's a form of communication barrier? So there's a barrier to the conversation. This is a fantastic question, because you will find as you use this tool, you will traverse maybe energies or beings that don't communicate with so much words. They may communicate in other languages, or they may communicate in images, or they may communicate even in another language. And so what you need to do, this is where you go back to the question number 1. Your bouncers, your misters and masters of ceremony, your gatekeepers, they're the ones that are going to help you decode, understand the messages. So I've got messages in other languages. I definitely got Spanish for a while. We got a little French, got Latin, some things I couldn't understand at all, and I know it was based on their language and the fact that we don't have the same language. So you ask for this bouncer, the gatekeeper again, to come through and interpret. Now, how the animals' messages get interpreted, originally it was my angel named Mary who would interpret the angel. Let me back up. It was the angel would interpret the animal messages, and they would reach the animal energy, translate it into English so I can understand that. That's my first language. And if your first language was, let's say, Spanish, they would translate it into Spanish for you. What's happened is, as Mary Angels made a shift into talking to the deceased, the transition people, the ones in spirit, a new energy named Papa, which is just the consciousness of all animals, will be the one that helps translate the messages from the animals. So when Panzer, my transition cat, comes through, or Jack comes through, or any of these animals I communicate with, it starts there typically with this energy that is the oversoul of the species, and then at that point, the animals would come through directly. And they will use, again, a translator to shift the energy, the messages, their words into words that I can understand. Because again, I'm using like a talking board, and they're going to be spelling. When I get the messages from the animals internally through, telepathy or through my mind, they will come through more as feelings. I'll see the words, I'll hear the words. I will also get images and feelings, and then I interpret that myself to what that means. So the board uses spelling, so you have helpers on the other side. This is why we got to go back to question number one. Is there a way to summon only one spirit guide, which is synonymous with that bouncer? And once you have that developed, then you can start reaching into these other dimensions of communication, because they're the ones that are going to help with this translation or bring this through. So there can be communication barriers. You just got to be patient, really patient, and ask for that assistance. I say when you first start off this tool, one of the most important relationships to develop is a relationship with either a loved one in spirit, a spirit guide, or an angel. One of those that has your back. They love you unconditionally, you know that, and it's easy for you to believe that when you're communicating with the unseen dimensions. You know that you have that in this life, or you have an understanding of spirit guides or angels that can definitely be there for you. Make those contacts first, because they could be very powerful allies for you as you begin to reach into these realms and speak with other beings. And they will, hence, fix these barriers you might get from communication, where you will begin to understand what's being said in ways that you can understand. I've had to ask and say, hey, could you please work in English? Right now, it sounds like gibberish, and it may not be, but I need a help. And I would call on my guides or somebody else to come through that will help. And that is how you do this kind of communication work when there seems to be mostly gibberish coming through, or words that don't make sense, or code, or another language. So just, stick with it, be patient, practice, persevere, and be patient overall. Those are the main things I can tell you when it comes to using this tool. Well, Jack, thank you so much for those questions. I think you're answering, asking this to me, it's allowing me to help answer this for not just you, but for a lot of people. I do hear a lot of these questions time and time again, and I think it's important as more people join the channel and they learn what's going on here, that they can ask these same questions. It's always timely to talk about them again. So if you guys have any questions you like, leave them below. I can compile them in a list and address them through other videos. And also, again, let me know if you want me to do another live video where we have Q&A. Again, asking questions about how to use this board, where you are, if you have any questions about the stuff I've covered on this channel, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a subscriber, you guys. I really appreciate you. Thank you for all your beautiful comments, your inquiries, your sharing, your experiences. We love it here so much. And again, thank you for supporting me and my work here in the world of using the talking board, spirit board, communication device, and also sharing how we can tap the unseen dimensions within ourselves through these tools, but ultimately we are awakening our own innate abilities. Thank you again for joining me. This was Creative Visions TV, and I'm Karen Dahlman. See you again real soon. Bye-bye.